Well, I guess I was a little bit off. I assumed that Tom Brevoort was talking about possibly getting promoted when Dan Buckley proposed to him some type of change as far as his responsibilities. That is not happening. He's actually making a lateral move, and here talking about that is Doc. How you doing, buddy?
I'm fine, man. Tom, enjoy trying to pick up the fucking mess that you're about to inherit.
Well, let's get into that. What's he about to inherit? Longtime Marvel Comics editor Tom Brevoort, currently an executive editor and senior vice president of publishing, announced on his social media that after 25 years of being the editor in charge of the Avengers line of comic books, he will be moving over to take on editing duties of Marvel's X-Men line of comics. This is following a great deal of speculation when Brevoort recently noted on his newsletter that he had been approached by president of Marvel Entertainment, Dan Buckley, about making a change in his career at Marvel. Brevoort noted that the changeover will not occur in the near future, and he still has major plans for the Avengers titles heading into 2024. And longtime X-Men head Jordan D. White will be finishing out his plans for his team for the X-Men before Brevoort takes over. So it sounds like I think they've noticed that there's something wrong with the X-Men, and they've decided, or at least Dan Buckley has, that maybe Tom Brevoort is the man to finally pick up the pieces and maybe get that house in order.
For as much of a mess as Avengers has been for the last couple of years, for the most part, over Tom's tenure on that line, it went from being a B, C list title to an A list title for Marvel Comics, which is a big thing because it spent its first 35 years as literally the book that nobody read and nobody wanted, and the book that just kept kind of failing. He did make it into a marquee title and helped bring a lot of the Avengers characters that had been solid sellers but nothing great into in a few cases top selling titles. So I guess when you're looking at the kind of disaster that is X-Men right now, they're hoping that he can maybe do that again and replicate some of that success.
As a longtime X-Men fan, you are the X-Men aficionado himself, and somebody that's walked away from X-Men for the most part, unless I decide to torture you with the review here and then. Are you willing to come back to the X-Men once Tom Brevoort? I assume that he's going to do a reboot.
I'll have to see what they're planning to do here. I mean, I don't trust them. I just plain don't. Now, will it make me reconsider my fuck the X-Men stance? Yes, absolutely. The minute you get Jordan White the hell out of that office, I will reconsider my stance on ignoring the line and acting like it just doesn't even exist anymore. And I will legitimately reconsider coming back, but I'll need to see what the hell his plans are. Just his presence does not entice me to buy. It just entices me to reconsider.
You don't think Tom Brevoort can turn the fate of Tinny Howard, Vita Ayala, Leah Williams, Jerry Duggan, and others around?
No, I do not. Look, if you're going to end up with the same drug-dealing, segregationist, supremacist, plant clone...
Well, that's not going to happen. They're getting rid of that, Doc.
Well, we'll fucking see until they actually get rid of it and pretend like it never happened. I doubt it.
It doesn't matter. Even if they get rid of that stuff, they don't get better writers. It doesn't matter.
They don't. I mean, unless you entirely gut that office from literally the janitor up, and there is no one left in there. He has to also fire all of the assistant editors and shuffle them off and bring in new assistant editors, because let's be perfectly honest, every assistant editor in that and associate editor in that X office is somehow actually less competent than Jordan White. Annalise Biss is the worst editor I have ever seen in human history. She makes Heather Antos look competent.
Well, let's hear about some of the other comments. There was actually an article on thepoppers.com from Chris Arant, who used to be the guy over at Games-O-Rama? Whatever that. Newsarama, whatever that thing is that he ended up left. He's at the Poppers now, and he had some very kind words for Mr. Brevoort. Let's see if Doc agrees. The biggest Marvel news in months, years, if you ask me, is the decision to move Marvel's vice president of publishing, executive editor Tom Brevoort, to run its X-Men comics line. It will take at least a year to see any of its effects in comics, but the reverberations will be felt in movies, TV, merchandise, and more for years and decades to come. Why? Because Tom Brevoort is one of the major architects of the Marvel Universe as mainstream public. Read the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it.
He's not entirely wrong, but
he's overselling it there just a little tiny bit there.
Quite a good bit, because let's be honest, while Tom Brevoort has been an overall positive for the Avengers line, most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it, you can actually trace the origins to Mark Millar and Brian Bendis, because it was all influenced primarily by the Ultimate line. And as far as I'm aware, Tom Brevoort had jack and shit to do with that. Now, he did build the Avengers into an actual marquee title, but he had to do it by bringing all the talent that they already had at the Ultimate line into the Avengers line. So, yeah, they're really overselling.
Do you really think they're going to sell more merchandise for X-Men because Tom Brevoort's on the line? Do you really think that's going to be the long-term effect?
No, there is absolutely zero. The way that you sell more merchandise for the X-Men is by making a really, really, really good X-Men line. Everything else trickles out of that. He's
going to need the actual writing talent, which is associated with a lot of the success that he had on Avengers. He doesn't really have that success without a Brian Michael Bendis in his prime coming over and really getting people excited.
Exactly. You got a handful of creators. You had a Michael Avon Oeming. You had over on Thor. You had Warren Ellis on Iron Man. You had Ed Brubaker on Captain America. There is not a single creator in that office right now, or in that company right now, that is even on par with one of those writers, much less their luck to have 4 or 5 of them all at the same time in the same office. Sorry, but Jerry Duggan can't even sharpen Warren Ellis's pencil. He is absolutely not a peer.
None of the guys that they have in the X-Men line right now are. They have a couple of decent people. Al Ewing is certainly one of the better writers, but it's not very good. This is what Chris Rant also said. He went on, it's hard to underestimate the influence that Tom Brevoort has had on the modern era of Marvel, be it Marvel Comics, Marvel Studios, or Marvel's bed sheets even. Brevoort took over the fledgling Avengers comics titles in the late 90s, which at the time and for 2 decades prior have been overshadowed in popularity and sales by X-Men. That all changed with Avengers Disassembled, a storyline led by Brevoort, and the Brevoort shows in Brian Michael Bendis, which led into a not-so-subtle reinvigoration of the Avengers titles, which propagated multiple Avengers spin-offs, as well as many other popular events such as Civil War, Secret Invasion, and Secret Wars, all 3 which Marvel Studios picked up to become multi-million-dollar successes. And I do believe right there he's overstating Tom Brevoort's success with Brian Michael Bendis. That was a Joe Quesada decision to actually bring him into Marvel Comics and kind of give the indie guy a try on the big stage.
Absolutely. I mean, he brought him into Ultimate Marvel, handed him Spider-Man, and then handed him X-Men, really let him build his name. And then I'm pretty sure that, he had to get Joe's approval to bring Bendis over into the mainline Marvel universe, because they had a nice hard line between creators that were over at the Ultimate line and those in the main Marvel Universe line up until that point. I think that he's overselling Tom's, let's say, talent evaluation there. Joe had long ago identified Brian Bendis and Mark Millar and Michael Avon Oeming and everyone else that ended up being keys to that early Avengers reinvigoration and making them, for the first time in their real history, a truly marquee title.
Yeah, and I don't think, I think at this point we know C.B. Cebulski isn't early tenure Joe Quesada, where he was going to be really, really successful, reinvigorate a lot of brands and make the characters more impactful, bring in really good creators. Jonathan Hickman, who did Secret Wars, he's not going to be working on the X-Men line. He already did his X-Men time. He ain't going to come back. Brian Michael Bendis is well past his prime. He's not going to be coming back. With Avengers Disassembled, Mark Millar is doing his own Miller World stuff, so you don't have Mark Millar to come in and do your Civil Wars and stuff for you. So I don't think that he has the leadership above him or the talent writer-wise around him to kind of emulate the success that he had before, and he certainly doesn't have any editorial support. Like, all the editors on X-Men are bad.
Exactly. And he doesn't have the Rolodex to reach out and find non-mainstream and indie talent that just
the one success he's had over the last 5-10 years is Donny Cates, and we saw what happened there.
Exactly. He doesn't have the ability to, find that youthful talent. He either doesn't have the ability or the desire to find young talent and turn them into legitimate superstars, because, well, those superstars eventually leave and they start costing money. Instead, we'll hire all these replaceable hacks and the generic Stephanies, because, they all get paid in pocket lint. I can keep my profit margin on the book.
And also, he is going to be dealing with a pretty interesting fallout from Jordan White's tenure as group editor on X-Men. I don't believe he understands just what a terrible state that entire line is. Like, there aren't any really good titles or characters right now. They've kind of destroyed everything, all at the same time.
Well, not only have they destroyed everything all at the same time, their long-time die-hard readers have quit. When you get die-hard readers to quit, it's really fucking hard, if not impossible, to bring them back. They caught lightning in the bottle in the 1970s with giant-sized X-Men, and then, the first, 40, 50 issues of Uncanny with Chris Claremont. And they've been riding that lightning ever since. Well, that stopped with Jordan White trying to catch lightning in a bottle again, reinvigorate the line, find editors, and get people to actually be willing to come back and read the book again. All those lapsed readers. We were the ones that it was almost impossible to get to quit. You got us to quit. Now you got to try to win us back.
I'm rooting for him. I hope this all works out and Tom Brevoort is just what the X-Men office needed. But I don't think it's going to work out that way, because the circumstances are much different now than they were when he reinvigorated the Avengers line. And let's be fair, like, the last 3, 4, 6 years of Avengers have all sucked anyway. He's had one good thing that happened in that time. Donny Cates, he came in and he did Thor. He came in and he did Hulk. Obviously, he did that Thanos series where they kind of screwed over Jim Starlin. But other than that, it's pretty much been a bust as well.
Ever since Secret War, the Jonathan Hickman Secret War, he's had one success in his ostensibly office in the past 7 or 8 years, and even that burned out. Good luck, Tom. You're really going to need it. Welcome to the X office. Hope you survive the experience.
For those of you who are unaware of just how bad it's gotten in the X-Men office, in the X-Men comic books, they're basically begging people. They're telling people, if you're an X-Men fan and you like comic books, you need to walk away. It's time to leave comic books for good. They've been telling us this for about 3 years now, at least. Definitely check this video out if you haven't seen it. There's also a link in the video description.